The biggest fear that we have as human beings is the fear of inadequacy. It is the fear of our shortcomings, our lacks, and all the failures that we can experience as a result of us taking action. And it has an evolutionary nature behind it because fear of rejection is deeply embedded in our biological and psychological makeup. Because in the past, while we were living in the form of tribes, in the form of communities, and in the form of groups, the rejection was synonymous with social isolation. And when you're in the jungle and you are being rejected by your tribe, by your community, and by your social group, dependent on, who you were dependent on for your survival, that meant that from now on you would be at the mercy of the wilderness of the jungle as well as all those wild beasts that were surrounding you. So that's why human beings are really, really afraid of rejection. And that rejection actually compels them to deteriorate their lives and to self sabotage and to never act on those things which are supposed to be acted upon. And that's the reason that why we are so much inclined towards gaining pleasure and avoiding pain in our lives. But this fear of inadequacy and this fear of shortcomings and this fear of lack still persists within us. And it tells us that we are not good enough. It tries to convince us that all those people who we are competing against, they are good, they're better than us, and they have outworked us in a way that they have the tools and strategies that they are using which are giving them the competitive edge that they're looking for. And since we don't have those resources that those people have, we don't have that kind of guidance around us to guide us that how to move forward, and we don't have the resources that we need in order to move at the pace at which they are moving, and since they are far, far ahead of us on the running track, we think that we will never be able to equate them. And this kind of fear compels us to never take action. It actually paralyzes us into inaction because we think that we will never be able to compete with them. So, what do we do? Since we are so much afraid of being exposed for our weaknesses, we cannot stand the thought of being socially humiliated and ridiculed just because we don't have the resources that we need in order to move ahead of them. We stop taking any kind of action. We tell ourselves that that's not the right time. We come up all of those rationalizations which are going to keep us away from action. But since the human mind has this flaw that the same kind of dopamine can be created just by the thought of that achievement, so we just keep planning. We just keep telling ourselves that we are going to make this change, we are going to make this change, but we never make it. We just keep making plans. And that's when procrastination takes in. It comes in and it takes over our life. And since we are wasting a lot of time, what's happening is that we don't have any ability to commit ourselves to a long term goal. That's why we are always looking for those fancy and flashy things through which we can impress those people who are around us for a while. Or we will do it, we will go to a wedding and people will ask us that what we are doing. And we will tell them that we are about to make these kinds of changes in our life. And when we see that the other people are paying attention to it and they're being impressed by our thoughts, that gives us that sense of happiness. And now we are good for a week. Now we are good for a month. Now for a month we don't have to do anything else because we have gotten that feeling of happiness that we were looking for. But literally ask yourself, is that enough? Had that been enough, we would not have been that much miserable in the first place. So, when you're procrastinating and when you are just delaying on those tasks which are supposed to be performed just because you don't have the necessary discipline to stay on the track for a long period of time, what's going to happen is that you're going to become a perfect victim for the smartest and the most sharp marketers and the copywriters in the world because they are very well aware of this fundamental flaw in the human nature where human beings want to get the solutions of their problems without any pain. They want their problems to get eradicated effortlessly. And since we have this flaw in our human nature and we can be deceived by it, but if you are not disciplined and if you're not consistently working on your goals and if you're not consistently earning your pleasure and you're all the time you're being entertained by the external resources and you depend for your happiness on the external resources in the form of the companies of your friends or in the form of films and other activities of entertainment, you don't know how to earn your pleasure. You're not working out, you're not reading, you're not working on your goals. What you are doing is that you're constantly being fed with that dopamine that you could have gained by earning it, by delaying gratification, but now you don't have the necessary discipline to do that. What's going to happen is that you're going to become a perfect victim for them. And that's what we see all the time around us, since especially when we are using YouTube or when we are using the other forums of social media. What's happening is that you're going to get these kinds of ads that if you get this pill and you use it for the next 6 months, what's going to happen is that you're going to lose your weight and you're going to get your ideal physique in the next 6 months, and you will not have to take care of your diet. You will not have to go to the gym. You will not have to work hard. All you have to do is to take this pill, which is going to cost you $600 for 6 months, and you're good to go. Or you can take this trading course of ours, and all you have to do is to invest $500, and your financial life will be taken care of for the rest of your life from then on. Or on the other hand, if you just memorize these verses, or if you just memorize these suggestions, or you just memorize these embedded commands, and you go and recite those embedded commands to a woman that you want to date verbatim, she's going to fall head over heels in love with you. Now, just ask yourself, how many times have you decided to date a woman who is far, far low good looking than the woman that you're dating in the first place? You never leave a beautiful woman for an ugly woman or for a less good looking woman. Same is the case with women. The evolutionary makeup is deeply hardwired in our psychology. Women can sniff out the fakes. They know who is faking and who is the real deal. You can get a date, but the moment you sit across her, you are going to get exposed for your inadequacies, because nothing in this world can give you a quick fix for those problems which need a long-term solution. So what you should do is that you should stop becoming a victim of that. But how are you going to do that? That should be your first question. And it is only going to become a reality when you're going to work on your self-discipline and your self-confidence. Now, how can you gain that self-confidence? It is simple, but it's not easy, because a lot of psychological and limbic friction is going to be generated within you when you will decide to take control of your life. Because if there is a lot of unexplored potential within you, which is telling you to work on your dreams, to work on your goals, what you need to understand that there are forces within you which are stopping you from working to explore your potential. They are creating resistance within you in order to stay away from those things which are important, and they are actually causing you to indulge in those activities which are helping you to sabotage your probability of success. So what you have to do is that you have to take yourself from those forces which are destroying you towards those forces which are trying to build you up. And for that, you need confidence. How are you going to gain that confidence? In the beginning, you will have to make a conscious and deliberate effort. And that conscious and deliberate effort means that you will have to take away all your focus from the fancy and the flashy visualization that you're doing. And you're telling yourself that how the life is going to be like once you are on the other side of the river, or how the life is going to be like when you are going to have all those things that you have dreamt of. You will have to take your focus away from that, and you have to absolutely focus on the process. How the activities that you're performing are going to change your life for better. How the things that you're doing in your life are going to give you that competence and that competitive edge over your competitors. You must always be looking for that competitive edge, but not in the form of a tool or a strategy which has been kept secret by those people who have achieved these things. These kind of things don't exist. You must know what the fundamentals are, and then you should be willing to work on those fundamentals for an extended period of time. It can be 1 year, it can be 2 years, it can be 3 years. If you're making videos, if you're writing blogs, what you should do is that you must not ask yourself how successful or how much of a failure are you until you have made 1,000 videos or you have written 1,000 blogs. You must do a ton of it. You must work on the fundamentals, and you must be willing to commit yourself to the process and literally forget about the outcome. That's how you're going to move ahead. That's how you're going to create that self confidence that you're looking for. That's how your mind is going to get the evidence that it has the ability to work on those things which are supposed to be worked on, and it can actually keep working on without seeing any sort of external reward for an extended period of time. That's how you're going to generate the self confidence that you're looking for. Once you have that kind of a self confidence, the next thing that you should do is that you must completely make yourself independent of other people and other resources of entertainment to elevate your mood. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that you should ask yourself that the moment you get depressed or the moment you get anxious, most of the times we see it in the dramas or we see it on the television that when a person gets depressed, he's calling his mom, he's calling his dad, he's calling his girlfriend, he's calling his friends, and it is considered something as positive. But I don't believe in that. If you are depressed and if you're anxious and you don't have certain frameworks and mechanisms in place through which you can elevate your mood and you can be back on the track, what's going to happen is that you're always going to stay dependent on the external sources for your satisfaction. And what's going to happen is that even if you get successful, you will always be looking for something external which is going to fulfill you. And that's some real dumb stuff. Your success and your work has all the ability to make you fulfilled, and you should be taking absolute benefit of it. So, being territorial is way, way different than being dependent on the other people, which means that if you ask me, how do I get over my depression and anxiety and all those negative feelings which are haunting me? I go to the gym or I'll work out at my house. I'll do 500 to 600 push ups. I'll run for 10 kilometers and then I'm good to go. And then I'm absolutely fine. Or I'll sit for 3 hours. I'll do anything which is going to create a lot of resistance within me. Just ask yourself, whenever you're in a bad mood, just ask yourself, what is the activity that can be the most productive one, but you're not willing to do that? And then do that. If you can train your brain in that way, the self-confidence that you're going to gain is going to be massive. And after that, even if they throw you into the dungeon, you don't care because you know that how to control your mind. That's what being territorial means. That's what being territorial is all about. So, all of that is only going to become a reality, or all of that is only going to make sense if you are consistent with the activities which are going to make you successful. Because at the end of the day, if you're not doing these things each and every single day, you're just chasing that fancy and flashy stuff that we just talked about. And there is no need to waste your time by chasing those things which are going to give you a competitive edge over your competitors who have been working on those goals for years now and you're just starting out. If they're your competition, you will have to outwork them. That's the only secret that nobody is willing to tell you and nobody is willing to act upon it. Because if somebody tells you that you'll have to work for 3 years, you're not willing to buy their product. And you by yourself, you are not willing to come to terms with this reality that anything which is significant, it is going to take a consistent amount of effort over an extended period of time. And that's the effort that you should be willing to put in whenever you want something significant. And it's not going to happen if you're just thinking about the last outcome that you're going to achieve after 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. It is only going to become possible when you're absolutely focused on making that the outcomes of that day materialized, tangible, and possible, which means that all your focus is on the repetitions that you're going to put in today. That should be your goal. So, don't be afraid of your inadequacies. Don't be afraid of social humiliation. Build your self-confidence by committing yourself to the long-term effort. Try to build that legitimate effort through your own work. Be territorial and don't let anybody else control the level of your happiness. And at the end of the day, stay consistent with your efforts. These are the only things that you need in order to become successful and in order to become fulfilled.